in the lounge. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited to have you with us today. I'm so excited for this next panel, long awaited. I'm going to get our other panelist, Derek Watford, on with us. And Marcus, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you guys so much for being here today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Charlene, and to the sponsors that made this happen, the volunteer hours that made this happen. Welcome, everyone, for joining us. If you don't mind, if you'll let us know in the chat where you're joining in from, we want to see, where the global performance vision community is from. My name is Marcus Howard. I'm joined with Travis and Derek. Definitely want to give them opportunities to introduce themselves more directly. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go through some educational information for you about the opportunity for vision in esports. Let me jump over here, share my screen, and then I'm going to mute myself because I have two toddlers or young kids who are disagreeing a bit. We're back. All right, quick commercial break. So I'm going to share my slideshow with you. The topic of this conversation is eyewear safety for gaming and esports. And as I mentioned, as a quick overview, we're just going to all introduce ourselves, talk about the gaming and esports industry, identify 6 key areas of value for the performance lenswear and the general lenswear industry, and then talk about next steps. So without further ado, my name is Marcus Howard. I got Super Mario Brothers 3 for Christmas when I was 6. Been playing video games ever since. Over 30 years as a gamer, worked in the gaming industry now 10 years. I recently published Innovate Gaming and Esports that teaches non-endemic communities, teachers and parents and gamers and non-gamers about all of the value in the global industry. Derek is featured in the book as well. Honored to have shipped that to 26 states around the country, 18 countries around the world, and on 6 continents, soon to be 7 when we get to Antarctica. I've worked across the industry with non-endemic communities like the U.S. Department of State, also with endemic communities like iHeartRadio, schools like University of Kentucky, and I actually just finished building a sustainability esports strategy for the country of Estonia. Enough about my background. Definitely want to give space and time for our other great panelists here.
Thank you, Marcus. So I'm Derek Watford. Nearly 10 years of gaming and esports experience, ranging from tournament production from a grassroots level to one of our major tournaments that we just produced at Disney in October. Also work with influencer gaming creators within the space and really recognize that esports and gaming create so much opportunity from an economic standpoint, but also from a community engagement and life skills standpoint. I'm also love to champion diversity and inclusion within the space. I recognize that gaming allows us to connect in so many ways. And so I'm excited today to join this panel to touch on an important topic about eyewear and just vision within this space, because we are so consumed with being in front of electronics that this is an important topic that I'm excited to join this panel to get out today.
Awesome. My name is Travis Cochran. Derek, everyone, thanks for being on. And yeah, I come from the worlds of both esports, competitive gaming, and also entertainment, so film, television. I ran an esports team out in Europe. We weren't a large team, but we had access and worked with the most elite high-performance coaches in the world, including Roger Federer's performance coach, people from English Premier League and from Formula One. And vision training was a key part of our training. So I had the great pleasure of working with companies like NeuroTracker, Synaptic, Right Eye Fit, like Cognitive View by Novi Touch, to increase my cognitive performance for in-game applications. So excited to be on here and just talk about what vision training has done for me and my impact of my performance when I was gaming.
Great, Marcus. Can you give us the next slide? You are still muted, Marcus.
Thank you. I was still muted. Thank you, Derek. I swear that I have an IT degree. It's about 15 years old, so maybe I need a refresh if I can't see the mute button. But thank you, Travis, for that. Thank you, everyone joining us around the world, Portland, Oregon, and Tampa and SoCal. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to enter them in the chat. We are going to make a specific segment to answer questions directly, but as you think of them, just feel free to type them in the chat. As a quick reminder, in case you're new to the gaming industry, it's over a $300 billion industry. It's actually more than twice the size of the film and music industries combined. And with over 3 billion gamers worldwide, nearly half of the world, a third to the half of the world plays some form of video games, whether that's retro games that you may have grown up with, things that might not have been connected to the internet, to mobile and console, VR. All of those are video games, and all of those are gamers, even if people don't self-describe as gamers. There's an interesting stat that while 60% of the global gaming industry is from mobile, the revenue is from mobile, and also the 60% is mobile. 85% of mobile gamers don't self-describe as the term gamer. So you may have people who play video games who don't consider themselves gamers. What's also interesting, thinking again at a larger perspective, in the US, the average gamer is 34 years old, and 2/3 of Americans play video games. So there's a massive market of people who do and don't wear glasses, who are spending, as Derek mentioned earlier, a significant amount of time per month, per week, maybe even per day, staring at screens. So there's a tremendous demand from a consumer perspective in the gaming industry. Derek, if you don't mind, you want to talk a little bit about the esports space at a high level?
So the esports space, $1.5 billion projected to in 2023. It has been one of the popular industries because of this engagement from a viewership standpoint. As you can see, 577 million from an audience. And that audience, when we talk about viewership, is people that are tuning in to watch these competitive leagues. So whether they're tuning in via platforms such as Twitch, YouTube gaming, also Facebook gaming has jumped into the scene as well. And that type of viewership has piqued the interest of sponsors within the space. So you have organizations and brands such as Red Bull, Geico, even Ford, putting marketing dollars to tap into that industry because they see the engagement that it's getting. The good thing about esports is because of the professional level, there's a pipeline that is currently being built to reach the professional level through collegiate programs and sponsors, where you have colleges giving out scholarships for students to attend their school to play video games for the school. Same way as you would envision traditional sports such as football, basketball, etc., being given out as scholarships. So the esports space, because of the pipeline, that's also creating the pipeline from high school and middle school as well to get kids trained up early on how to compete within gaming space because there's so much interest in gaming. What have you seen within the esports space and industry, Travis?
Yes, I see. Yeah, it's growing in a tremendous growth in size, and like what Marcus already said, it's dwarfed both the film and television industries tremendously. So, and it's only going to keep growing more. I mean, as millennials get older, as we talked, someday eventually when they're in their 40s and 50s, then they'll be having their grandchildren and whatnot. So. To actually have them gaming. So yeah, the industry is just going to keep exploding, especially not just with the three different, from console to mobile, but there's going to be some other different platforms being introduced over time, including eyewear. So very excited to see the industry keep exploding.
Excellent, thank you. So we'll move on to the next slide. And again, as you have questions, feel free to add those in the chat. We're going to get to those at the end, but I see them coming in now. So please feel free to keep sending those over. So we're going to talk about 6 core needs for eyewear in gaming and esports. And definitely I invite Travis to jump in here and share some of his experience, his perspective. He's, again, played as a professional player and worked as at business development for a company that focused on performance, improving vision performance and sensory performance. So the first thing here is reducing eye strain. As we mentioned earlier, and you may have noticed, if you're playing video games, it's almost impossible to do that without staring at a screen. And if you really love playing video games, you're spending a lot of time in front of the screen. I remember when I was my freshman year in college, I actually skipped an entire week of school the week that Halo 2 came out so that I could beat the game in a week. So I spent an entire week, 2 to 3 feet away from a very large TV, just staring at the TV, trying to beat the game. And so you see that across gaming and esports. But Travis, love to hear your take on that, and Derek as well.
Yeah, so with I see you have the slide for the blue light. One of the companies I'm working with is addressing that issue for blue light. So currently all the eyewear that's out there for blue blocking, it only blocks about 20% or so of the blue light, and the rest is filter in. And we have some incredible technology we'll be releasing in regards to that. But and then in regards to your first bullet point, you're spot on. Most of these gamers live extremely unhealthy lifestyles. So they're wake up at noon and they'll game for about 10 hours, 11 hours a day, and then crash. And then this whole process too, they're also just downing Red Bulls, and so tons of sugar and caffeine over and over. And then they wonder why they burn out at the age of 22 and 23 in their competitive life cycle. And so when I was actually in the team in Europe, it's like our whole day was regimen mapped for us. So every hour, every minute of our day, we only had about 5 or 6 hours of the gameplay training, but the rest was a holistic approach for, nutrition, sleep, psychology, fitness. So it's about keeping both your brain and your body in overall and top tip shape. But if you were just focusing just strictly on the game sessions, which is what a lot of these esport athletes do, they're going to burn out quickly, and it's not healthy. After a certain amount of hours, your brain, you hit mental fatigue, and at that point, you're actually not reinforcing. You could actually be hurting, your ability to actually achieve better results. So it's all about getting into a good training cycle. So and regimented. There are some teams that are taking the right steps forward for this, like a Team Liquid. They are, but no one has really implemented vision training as a core fundamental principle yet, which is I'm hoping they do so in the future. So to really help these athletes not only achieve better results but also for longevity purposes, keep their brains young and healthy and sharp for longer. So yeah.
One thing I would like to add for eye strain is that because esports is fairly new, we're beginning to get parental education on the opportunities in esports for their children. And because of that, a lot of parents are against gaming from the beginning because they think of gaming from a waste of time perspective or a sedentary perspective. Eye strain is not on their radar yet because they're just now getting to the point of like, okay, I don't mind my child competing or being in a program that's organized with their school. And so eye strain is one of those topics that just isn't on anyone's radar yet.
Thank you for that, Travis and Derek. Derek, if you want to pick this next topic up, I personally don't wear glasses, but I feel like I will need them soon. So I can't speak as directly to enhanced vision as maybe you can, but definitely would like to get your take on this.
So from an enhanced vision standpoint, like you're staring at a screen all day, and from an esports and gaming perspective, it's not esports world and the gaming world isn't just centered around playing the video game. There's other aspects that involve being in front of the computer screen, whether you're chopping up video of your play, highlight reels from your gameplay, the content that you're creating to promote your skills and abilities to get picked up or drafted by teams within the league. And all of that is screen time. So having the proper eyewear that allows you to see clearly just when you're trying to put something in focus from the content that you're making or adjust content that you're creating plays an important role. It definitely allows gamers to have a better reaction time to in-game elements. So if my vision is strained or if my vision is off, those milliseconds that I can need to react to win the play can be impeded. So that type of enhancement definitely adds value within the competitive space, but also in the content creation side of esports as well.
I think one of the most illuminating things is, we work together on this with Charlene, is learning about, all of the fantastic technology going into this space. Again, while I don't during the day or regular kind of day-to-day activity wear glasses, because I do play video games, and particularly even outside of video games, because I work at my computer, 40 plus, 60 plus hours a week. I spend a lot of time in front of the screen. I'm even considering myself getting glasses just for work because I'm spending so much time in front of the screen. So as we've seen in the gaming industry, a lot of technology that happens on the software side ends up having a ton of application outside of gaming, right? If you think about 3D models, even this concept of the metaverse, all evolved out of the video game industry. The technology that's built for, reducing eye strain, enhancing vision, performance enhancement inside of VisionWare is something that can start in a massive audience of 3 billion gamers, but then again expand to the wider community of people who use computers and watch TV and are watching movies on mobile devices. Next is immersion. Again, we just talked about the metaverse. A lot of what's happening in the metaverse it involves virtual reality and augmented reality. And depending on which one of those realities you're diving into, you may have something like a phone or a screen less than a foot from your eyes. So it's about creating a better experience for those devices. And as that evolves, different experiences, again, just having it be even more captivating. Video games are the most engaging form of social and consumer media. So more so than reading a book or watching TV or a movie or listening to music, listening to a podcast, because you actually get to control the character. You get to experience the environment, the story, your actions more or less determine the result of the game, of the experience. So we want to try to maximize the immersion, and that will help with the adoption of VR and AR, the more immersive we can make it. Do you have anything you wanted to add, Travis or Derek, on that?
I don't.
The only thing I have to say for the VR side is that in terms of training, so like when I was building out the esports protocol on the Synaptic Sensory Station, and building out something from like visual acuity to contrast sensitivity to depth perception. The only thing with VR that when I was speaking with people who are Synaptic is that it's actually hard to replicate true depth perception. Which for us, and when we're using a flat monitor, it doesn't matter. But that's the only thing I'm just trying to think from an optometry standpoint. If you are trying to train the different visual skills, is that from what I heard from the people who are Synaptic, it is hard to replicate true kind of depth perception training mechanics. So, but who knows? Maybe they'll fix that in the future. So, but yeah, that's the only. I'm just trying to think from the optometry standpoint for training.
Thank you for that, Travis. And Derek, to your point about parents being opposed to esports because it's traditionally sedentary. If you think about AR and VR, what it gives you the ability to do is actually be a part of kind of mobile gaming, right? Full body, activity the same way you would associate with traditional sports. So this is actually an emerging market in esports, where right now most of it's played at a PC. You're seeing it also played on console and mobile. But as we see AR and VR, that type of technology is going to be critical to being able to be successful in the AR and VR esports space. So much more beyond just your kind of casual gamer. This is another one that I'm going to take a step back for, because I don't wear glasses, but love to hear from Derek and or Travis about the importance of having comfortable glasses.
Having comfortable glasses is a key role, especially if you're doing long gaming hours. Like Travis said, competing already has this grueling hours that you spend in front of the screen already. So if you're adding glasses to it, you're just adding another point of fatigue for a player to contend with then ultimately impacts their competitive ability. So having eyewear that a person can wear long term and that is comfortable would definitely enhance the space. It's definitely something that those gamers that actually wear glasses are wanting and needing within the space.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add too is like I can't even game without eyewear. If I even attempt to game even for an hour without my blue blockers on, then I get that eye burning sensation. My eyes start to feel strained. I hit visual fatigue way sooner. So yes, having appropriate eyewear is definitely necessary. And obviously, yeah, you want it comfortable for a very productive gaming session.
Let me ask you, Travis, how far do you think we are away from esports organizations making eyewear mandatory, almost as a safety precaution for their players?
Ooh, I mean, it would be interesting to see if they actually mandate it. I think it kind of falls on responsibility of the actual like orgs and also the players' responsibility too. It's like, take care of your bodies, because and take care of your eyes. Like that's your most, your vision and cognitive, attributes is like your most important out of all the sports, all the traditional sports. It's your physical body usually that's getting hit hard. In gaming, it's a mental sport, and so your eyes are getting hit hard, and so you want to be able to protect that visual asset that you have. And having the appropriate eyewear is going to be important. Someone had mentioned in the comments, I noticed, and that he's like, what about blocking 100% blue light? That may not be good because yes, it does act as a stimulant. But here's the thing: a lot of these gamers are going through these grueling hours and they go way into the wee hours of the morning and they crash. And so their circadian rhythm's completely off. Actually, by blocking 100% of blue light, you can actually achieve a natural, like a sleep cycle, and actually have these gamers have much longer gaming sessions. And it also can reduce visual noise in the game from post-processing effects to lighting, shading effects. So some exciting stuff we're working on.
So the next slide, we're trying to get Marcus back in here, is about competitive edge because of eyewear. In the competitive world of esports, like every advantage makes a difference, right? And so having glasses that can give you a competitive edge would aid tremendously in the esports industry. Like we envision players that are using specialized eyewear to gain the edge over their opponents by improving their reaction time or being able to, like, I know many people hate shooter games, but in shooter games, to see someone up close or from a distance from a sniping so you don't get hit can play an important role on whether you win the competition or not.
If I can add to that, and sorry, I'm having internet issues here, but in that last slide, I wanted to make a point which is relevant here about headsets, right? While I have worn headsets and I have headphones, comfort is important because if I'm wearing it long term, if it starts to hurt, then I just take the headsets off. And also here on the competitive edge opportunity, there are headsets that have just 360-degree kind of directional audio. And if you're playing a game like a first-person shooter where you can hear directionally and that gives you a competitive advantage, those who have that enhanced equipment, that advanced equipment, have an opportunity, a competitive edge over those who don't. Travis, would you like to add anything to that? As someone who went from being, I think, 6th ranked in a specific first-person shooter game to #1.
Yeah, so when I was actually doing that, it wasn't so much eyewear at that time. It was just strictly the vision training impact. I was a complete non-believer in vision training when I first started. I became a total convert at the end. I was yes, I said so. I was a top-ranked sniper in a little game called Battlefield 4, which is still the best Battlefield in my opinion. And then I, after actually undergoing extensive neurostimulation training, vision training with a neurotracker and a company out in Santa Monica called Neurovision, I was pretty much essentially the first guinea pig in the esports competitive gaming world to undergo this. And so we didn't know what the effects were going to be. Neither did I, and I was very skeptical. And just after a few weeks of this type of training, I just noticed that pretty much the game slowed down. And it wasn't the game slowing down; it was just my processing speed had increased dramatically. So I was taking information at a much rapider pace than everybody else. So when I would see a person, I could aim, shoot, and he's dead before he even raises his gun. It was just extremely rapid. When I'd hop in my car on the freeway going 80, it felt like I was going 20. I could literally get out of the car and walk. So your time is just dilated, and it's tremendous effects. And out of everybody in the company, they work with the company I was working with. They worked with Formula One drivers, NFL athletes, whatnot. I was right up there with Romain Grosjean and Lance Stroll in F1. And so the esport, and that's when we realized that esports is extremely sensitive to vision training, and it will take any esport athlete who takes vision training seriously will the sky's the limit, and you will just blow past any competition that is just grinding in front of a monitor for 12 hours a day, thinking that the only way to get better is by you simply just playing matches over and over, which isn't the case. Yes, you do need to get gaming sessions in, but your eyes and training your eyes is going to catapult you to leaps and bounds beyond. And they took me to #1 in the world for ranked for sniping in that game. And ever since then, I've been told supportive of vision training, and then the eyewear. And eventually, and this is just a little sneak peek, but eventually the controller's going away, the mouse and keyboard's going away, and eventually it's going to be digital optical eyewear that's going to override gameplay, interaction, player interconnectivity, and online capabilities as well. So, yes.
Which just further reinforces the importance of eyewear safety, right? If all the controls are going to be managed by your eyes. And then the last one, because we're a little short on time, just fashionable branding. We know that a lot of especially tier 1 esports orgs make merchandise and branding a significant portion of their business. So the ability to have kind of your personality or your community represented in your eyewear is going to be important, just like we see it with shoes or hoodies. It's definitely going to be important, and also kind of creates other opportunities in the metaverse as you have maybe even eyewear for your avatars. Derek, Travis, wanted to add anything to that?
No, I definitely don't.
Okay.
Actually, so I'm working with a top designer in New York right now for the eyewear that we're working on, and having a gaming language, so the game design is the design language is extremely important for eyewear, especially for targeting an esports or gaming community. So having it to speak to them as it relates to their the gaming culture is extremely important. So absolutely. So it's you definitely need to cater to stylistic that community. Just as the people I'm working with, they've worked with Ferrari, and Ferrari, and has exactly wanted to get their specific look and what they want to achieve. So it's from motorsports to esports to even the NFL with the Oakleys. It's every sport or every kind of major community has its own style and wants. So that's catering to the gaming esports industry is you need that in eyewear too.
So just as a recap, again, we're running a little bit short on time. We've got 3 major concepts that we want you to remember. Is that the reason that gaming and esports needs eyewear safety is, especially from the competitive side, to enhance competitive performance. That translates to more wins, which translates to prizes and money, which is how most of these tier 1 orgs are funded. And many of them outside of their media and sponsorship deals, even outside of the competitive play, creating content, a significant portion of the revenue comes from brand sponsorships, which translates to content creators. But outside of even competitive play and professional content creation, the average gamer, again, 3.2 billion of them plus worldwide, you want to improve their overall gaming experience and the comfort so they can play longer periods of time. So we're going to jump to a couple quick questions, but the next steps we want you to think about is that for your business within this space, you want to understand what your goal is, and you probably do this with other projects. What's your goal within gaming and esports as it relates to performance vision? What do you have as a timeline and a budget to help you achieve that goal? And then what's your strategy to deliver on that timeline and budget? And you're lucky here on the stage. You have 3 domain experts in the space who all have tons of time and experience working with some of the biggest brands in the space. That we're happy to help you, but we can also point you in the right direction. And we're happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you for your time, and we'd love to see more performance.
So we didn't want to end the session without letting you guys get some of your questions answered. And, obviously we had another session coming up at exactly 1:30. We're running a bit behind because this is really obviously a great topic that a lot of you are very engaged about. I'm just going to show some of these questions on the stage, and I know Marcus is joining us again. So how often have you guys seen eye care professionals consulting in gaming development or even in esports leagues? Is this something that you guys have seen?
I know at the grassroots level, I have not seen it. And that's why we were excited about this opportunity, because there's a definite need within the space for the two industries to come together to create a solution. How about you, Travis?
I haven't seen it for in-game development, but yeah, for esport teams and leagues, yeah, they are starting to get sports like optometrists in to train their eye. Whether they're really using all the vision training technology tools at their disposal, like NeuroTracker, Synaptic, Right Eye Fit, like I know we touched on all those. I don't know, but I do know some teams are trying to implement some sort of vision health involved with it. But in terms of in-game development, I don't know.
Do any online eyeglass providers offer esports specific options?
Again, I haven't seen any, but I haven't looked as well. Like I wear glasses and game, but from an educational standpoint, I haven't even thought about, hey, should I get specific glasses for gaming? And are there any that exist outside of blue light blockers?
And I think, Travis, you could talk a bit about Dr. Shidlovsky. I know he and I spoke offline about some of the nuances in fitting an esports player at an optical level. He's even talking about putting together a fitting guide. And I know Heather's here. She's a gamer. She's an optical goddess. So she's really good at understanding those nuances. But did you have any experience in having your eyewear tailored to you that you'd want to share?
I never got like eyewear specifically tailored towards me. It was kind of like, here's your fit and here you go. So it wasn't, it wasn't anything special that I received. But yes, I do know Charles is trying to implement that of actually catering a specific size to whatnot. But I did not receive any treatment of that myself, though.
So this is just a great opportunity all around. And we've got so many great opticians that are capable of doing that. If blue light acts as a stimulant, would there be any benefit to maintaining a certain level of blue light? And I know there's good and bad blue light. What do you guys think about that?
So yes, so blue light does act as a stimulant and keeps you up, and it prevents the secretion of melatonin from coming. So we're experimenting, like, what if you do block 100%, and what are the performance benefits in terms of productivity of actual game sessions, prevention of total eye strain, and actual headaches. And I actually have the list. I don't have it up right now, but also us then also exploring the ability for longevity. So for an actual, if you're blocking 100%, could this actually increase the longevity of your eye's health for performance in the long run, and also be able to keep you on an actual natural sleep cycle pattern? So by not allowing any, are you able to then to go to sleep naturally, then wake up, and then actually go back to having, because a lot of these gamers, if they're not wearing eyewear, they'll have some blue block, but they're still, even after a couple of hours, like the eyewear I currently use only blocks about 1%. And so even just after an hour of gaming, I could start feeling the onset of visual fatigue, the burning sensation, and also the other element that we're exploring as well is also reducing visual noise that by blocking out blue light can do. So so stay tuned for all that stuff.
And this is a great question by Gabriel Fernandez. What are some other tips or strategies that esports players can use to protect their eyes and to reduce the risk of developing eye strain and other vision problems? Is there like a typical like break time recommended, or like looking like accommodative type of exercises that you guys are aware of?
So I would say be conscious of how many hours you're pouring in. So many gamers have this mentality, I just need to grind. And what that ends up doing is shortening their total, it's like if you're just doing the same thing over and over, after a while, it's like, are you getting better, or are you actually hurting yourself in the long run? And so having, I think, like a good solid amount of hours that you've commit to gaming, but then besides that, it is a full 360 degree approach to your overall health, including your eyes. And when I was training out in Europe, we had totally different eye training techniques and exercises that we would do to keep our eyes fresh and ready. So yeah, I don't know if I need to go into every eye training exercise I did, but yeah, there was a lot of stuff in that we did to keep our eyes sharp and also train just all the different sensory vision skills as well.
Marcus and Derek?
No, that's hit it on the head.
Awesome. So this is like kind of a common thing. And we have a lot of eye doctors with us and opticians in the audience. So if you see any questions that you have some advice on, feel free to comment because we're all here to learn together. I think it's great to have everybody kind of coming around these, getting these answers, these questions answered. Does anyone have experience with the PlayStation VR headset, and are PD adjustments available on these headsets? I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but we can also X that a little later. But why don't you take a stab at it if you know that?
I have
I
a
don't know.
VR headset. I'm not sure what PD is, but I don't know that it. I think you can adjust like the settings on the lens, like the distance between the lens and your face. But if it's something other than that, I don't think that's in the first iteration of PSVR. What they do have is a new PSVR headset, PSVR2. You're starting to see, the Oculus has the Quest 2. So the manufacturers are trying to add more and more technology, and as Derek and Travis said earlier, we're still emerging market and people understanding the importance of vision technology. So we're going to hopefully start to see more and more technology incorporated into these headsets. To answer the other question, I think is a general practice. I've seen this in some video games. They'll have kind of a not a warning message, but just a general informational message to recommend that you take breaks every half hour or so if you're playing video games. It's not a requirement. I don't know if there's a standard for how much time you take away, but some games will generally recommend it.
So being in the industry, I know this is a 20-20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes, you want to look 20 feet away for 20 seconds is like a good kind of rule of thumb. But there's even been some updates to that recently as people are spending more time in front of screens. This is a really good question. And again, feel free to take a stab at it. And I'm sure Rose will go into this a little bit more later. From what age should a kid be allowed to use a VR headset?
I have a Quest 2. And it says when you're setting it up, it doesn't recommend it for kids under the age of 13. So that's what they recommend. I don't know if there's any science or math behind that, but definitely as you're setting it up, it recommends that you not allow anyone under the age of 13 to use it. I'm interested to see why they picked 13, because kids are playing video games before they get into VR, or I started playing video games before I was 13. So I'm interested to see why 13 is the number that they picked. It might be, I think, more so legal reasons, because I know that you can't game, quote unquote, professionally in the esports space unless you're 13. And since it's owned by Facebook, my guess is that they're capturing some information that they need you to be 13 to capture. That's my guess.
Well, it might have something to do with the brain-eye development, that kind of, there's like an age where you're considered to be fully mature. But again, we're very privileged to have a lot of doctors here who focus on neurooptometry. I see Dr. Oatney chiming in. So he's, if any of you see him floating around, he's a really good one to ask some of these questions to. Okay, so here's an interesting question. And maybe you guys know this because you do play so many different games. When will gaming start to use holography? I'm not familiar with that term, but we'll have to talk about that, rather than close-up eyewear.
So I think
definitely outside of my wheelhouse.
I think it's referring to holograms. I don't know how you would need. Yeah, I'd have to do some research and get back to you. I know that there are some holograms being used in the entertainment industry outside of gaming, but more for like music performances. Every time that I think of that, my mind just goes back to AR and VR, which is back to glasses. So I would have to do some research and get back to you, Dr. Lamont. Great question.
Well, and I think, Travis, with your work that you're doing on this new, eyewear initiative, is this part of what you guys are working on? Is something more like heads up type of display as opposed to like the close-up VR?
So is what Marco said is this like holograms that are just being projected, or is this like a form of augmented reality? Like what I don't know myself of what the holography is or defining. That would kind of help me better understand to explain.
Yeah, and it sounds like, just reading the context of the question, that it's more about like just seeing like an AR form of content as opposed to like seeing it like right in front of your eyes. But we can dig into that question a little bit later. I do like this question. I think it's something that you guys might be very capable of helping us to understand. What are gaming producers or even esports league coordinators doing to warn and help against eye strain?
Travis mentioned it earlier that specific teams are taking a stab at it. Team Liquid, some of the other tier 1 teams, but that's because they're taking health and wellness seriously because they recognize that creates a competitive advantage. You don't see that being done uniformly across all teams, and particularly not for tier 2, tier 3, and below teams, because what these tier 1 teams are doing are hiring optometrists or opticians and physical therapists. That has a budget line item associated with it that may be financially inaccessible to teams with less funding. And I don't know that any game developer is really taking a stab at it. They're just mostly focused on a compelling experience, hopefully one that keeps you coming back on a regular basis. So I have not seen it. I've seen it more on the esports side than I have on the gaming side. But again, as we see AR content, VR content continue to be this kind of emerging segment of the gaming industry, hopefully, especially with the audience here, we'll get the right people in the right room to make sure that's a priority.
Yeah, we'd love to work with you guys to get in front of some of these big gaming developers. Having access to a huge network of eye care professionals like this from around the world is really, I mean, this is the time to be having these relationships form. Okay, so we have a great question here from Dr. Valentine, the CTO of Hue Lens. Travis, what wavelengths should gaming lenses block, in your opinion?
I'm not sure if I could go into detail of any of that though right now.
Okay.
Yeah, just for confidentiality stuff we're working on. But essentially, yeah, like we're just trying to dive into, with all the blue light that gamers are receiving, even if they do wear some that have blue blocking, what happens if we cranked it up and if they weren't receiving any blue light? It's like, obviously, yeah, blue light keeps you awake, but like, what if they're able to get their normal sleep cycle and also are able to completely prevent eye strain from coming from blue light, period? And that eye strain would naturally occur just after simply gaming with, just having their eyes protected. So that's what we're kind of exploring. But kind of give you a hint though, someone asked about the visual noise on there. So, but using different color tints, whatnot, and blocking 100% of potentially this blue light, we can reduce some of that visual noise that are. So, for example, you could go into your game, you could go into your graphic settings, and you can lower a lot of your visuals, but you can't turn everything off. And so, what if we were at what if I were to help you just be able to focus on the competitive elements of just you seeing players better, and also reducing post-processing effects, lighting effects, shading, of which you can't turn off completely in game. So yeah, I hope that gives you a hint.
So this last question, and then, that wasn't a question. I clicked the wrong one. This last question, and then we'll, take our break. So what does vision training look like? And then someone asked a sequential question. Do you think eye care professionals could start to offer visual training in their offices? I'm sure the equipment is quite expensive. You've done some of this vision training, Travis, and we talked about the cost factor. How would you answer that?
Yeah, it is. It can be very expensive, and I was fortunate to meet a company that I was essentially kind of like the first esports guinea pig to undergo this type of extensive training and became a total convert after. But yes, it can be expensive. I know Synaptic switched over to a subscription model, which is great because the Sentry Station alone, just by itself, is $25,000, and the majority, like the average gamer, can't just go out and buy here's a $25,000 training tool to use on a daily basis. So yeah, but I would say, invest in what vision training technology can get your hands on now, and start mapping out. Charles Sadowski is a great resource for this as well, because he has everything under the sun. And I've been at his clinic and I've worked with him in the past. And so yes, vision training is, but I cannot underscore enough how important vision training is for esports athletes. And that is pretty much the golden goose for taking esports athletes to the next level, especially if they want to destroy their competition. So yeah, but look into it. I would definitely look into companies like NeuroTracker, Synaptic, Right Eye, FitLight, Cognitive View, Binobi Touch, and and there's others out there as well. But yeah, it can get expensive, but there is some other payment plan options coming. Like I said, the Synaptic does have a subscription model that you can look into, get going.
And thank you guys so much. I'm going to give you guys the last word, but just for those of you who have been watching the schedule, you know that we're a little behind. Hugh Lenz is coming up, the interview between Dr. Lamott and Justin Fong, and Marcus, Derek, and Travis. I'll give you guys the last word and let you sign us off.
Well, again, Charlene, thank you for having me participate in this panel. Hopefully it's been of value for the attendees. If you want to reach out directly to me, I have my LinkedIn within my bio here, and you can find me on social media at High Point Gamer, all one word. I'm looking forward for the change that we can make within the industry.
Thank you all for joining us. We're excited to continue this conversation with you. I shared a link from my 5-star rated esports book. I have had several people who ordered it refer to it as their esports Bible. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. If any of the performance vision companies here attending would like to get into sponsoring other events, we're happy to have those conversations as well. I'm actually producing a sustainability esports summit at the University of Kentucky on April 28th and 29th. So if you'd like to be a part of that experience, we're expecting 1,000 in-person attendees, somewhere between 5 and 10,000 virtual attendees. And already have some of the biggest names in the industry attached to that. People from the Foundation for the International Game Developers Association, Riot Games, the list goes on and on. Happy to have those conversations as well. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, Charlene, Marcus, Derek, pleasure with all for being here, and everyone watching as well. You can find me on LinkedIn or any of my socials, just at Travis Cochran. And yes, if you're an optometrist, please, I cannot stress this, invest your time in just learning what vision training is and will do for any gamer, and how this is going to benefit them and take them to the next level, because this will truly not only make them a better athlete, but also increase their longevity and life cycle in the competitive gaming world. So thank you.